Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Do we have to get them in here? Or there he is.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's the 16th of April.
Another spectacular day. Awesome, Dr. Nelson Alia. And today we have the marvelous Dr. Judy Morgan, a veterinarian, not a vegan she might be a veteran, but we're going to talk about healthy animals and our domesticated animals, particularly probably dogs and cats, but maybe more. And we're going to talk how we equate that to the human domestication. But before we get Judy going here, Dr. Nelson Ali, do we have any news to start the day?
Yes. Let me talk quick about the Albany meetup, Albany, and Chicago. So May 30th, we're doing a meetup. Actually, it'll be our first ever meetup and barbecue at CNY Fertility in Albany.
It's the location. It's just the location.
It's going to be awesome.
Location. That's all. It's another venue which we own. So it'd be really great to bring everyone together at the CNY Fertility Albany location.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, we get to more events before then, so we'll talk about these in a second. I want to say something specific about Chicago. Chicago is going to be the first ever carnivore concert, even though it's at 10 in the morning. We're going to have, because we actually have Chris Cook in Nashville and his wife coming and singing already. Susie's coming and singing. I've asked a couple of more people.
Amy, too.
I know. I asked Amy. Amy, are you here? I asked Amy. We'll see what she says. So it's going to be we're starting something, the first ever carnivore concert. So... All right, Dr. Nelson.
Yeah, the next 4 events, which include Albany on May 30th, but we're going to be at Meatstock. If you don't have your tickets yet, go to kiltzmeetup.com, see if they're still available. We're going to be watching Healing Humanity for the first time there.
Ollie, did you see that a couple of people, Vincent, Alaska, had a VIP ticket for sale?
Oh, for Meatstock, right?
Yeah.
For Meatstock.
Yeah. So anyone has any tickets available, put them on Kiltz Mighty Tribe, and I'm sure someone's there to buy them. But let's highlight them if they're available. Be really good for everyone.
Okay.
May 6th, the cholesterol code, if we get enough people. Otherwise, it might be canceled. And like we said, May 30th, Albany, and after that, June 6th, Montello Theater. It's sold out. They are looking to see if they have a second screening shortly thereafter, but hopefully Kiltz Mighty Tribe will be able to set up a screening. We're still working on that for either Orlando or Tampa.
Awesome. Yay. All right. And we have Judy Morgan here. Did you have any introductions, Doctor?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, we're here as a carnivore-centric podcasting platform, and we're going to talk a little bit about domesticated animals with Dr. Judy Morgan. Welcome, and how are you today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you very much.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you sort of melded into this carnivore lifestyle. And as a veterinarian, what has it meant for you?
So I am Dr. Judy Morgan. I'm an integrative veterinarian. I own a company called Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets. We are an e-commerce and educational platform. And our goal is to empower pet parents to have their pets live longer, healthier lives, minimizing vaccinations and chemicals, and increasing their health span and lifespan. So I practiced in New Jersey. I owned 2 clinics for a long time, but I sold them in 2020 and moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, where I now run Naturally Healthy Pets in my retirement.
And tell us a little bit about the pet industry and what you've seen in the years that you were practicing and the diseases that our beautiful domesticated animals have been suffering from, and how there may be a correlation with human health.
So they parallel each other so well. Since the invention of ultra-processed pet food, which is very convenient for the pet parent, we have seen an uptick in chronic inflammatory diseases, obesity, and shortened lifespans for our pets. So in the 1970s, the average lifespan for a medium-sized dog was 17. It's now 10. We've basically cut their lifespan in half with all of these improvements in modern medicine. Kind of amazing. So we are definitely over vaccinating our animals. We are feeding them completely incorrectly. And we have all these bigger, better chemicals that are supposed to make their lives better, and in reality are causing just more and more problems.
What is the domesticated diet for cats and dogs?
About 95% of the people in the world are feeding ultra-processed dry kibble to their cats and dogs, which is absolutely the most inappropriate food that we could feed them. And it is driven by two main players, Nestle Purina and Mars Pet Care, which is Mars the candy company. And they each do over $30 billion a year. The next company behind them would be Hills, which only does $6 billion. So those two have the monopoly. And it's really interesting that in third world countries where we didn't have processed pet food, the pets were doing just fine. And now when I go to a third world country and I find a little corner hole in the wall where they're selling pet food, it's all ultra processed from those two main companies. And it's just like what we see in people in third world countries or lower income countries. When the ultra processed food gets into that country, all of a sudden we have a spike in diabetes and obesity and chronic inflammatory disease. So we see the exact same thing. And, you know, now that we're talking about for people going back to let's eat real food, I've been pushing for that for our pets for about 15 years. And there's a small group of us who are working very hard to get people educated to the fact that this ultra processed kibble is killing our animals.
Yeah, it is. So what is kibble? What is it? What is it made from?
It's made from really bad stuff. Most kibble, a lot of kibble.
Well, when you say really bad stuff,
I'll let you know what that is. So a lot of it is waste products from the human food industry. So like the breweries have leftover grain hulls from when they, ferment and process the grains. Well, where does all that stuff go? Can't possibly go to a landfill. It goes into animal feed or pet food. And the meats that are condemned, not usable for human consumption, goes into pet food. The grains that are moldy and not suitable for human consumption go into pet food. Yes, they can fumigate those grains to kill the molds, but when you kill the molds, you're left with aflatoxins and mold toxins, which are very damaging to the liver. So we have a lot of animals running around with elevated liver enzymes with chronic liver disease, and it's basically related to the moldy grains that are in their food. The meats that are used in pet food, in the ultra-processed pet food, are very commonly rendered meats. So rendered meat can be cows that die out in the field, and they're sick. We don't know why they died, but they have to go somewhere. So the farmers have them hauled off in trucks to rendering plants where they're all thrown together in a big vat, cooked down, and then it's dehydrated to make a meat meal. And then that meat meal is used in pet food. So there can be all kinds of really nasty things, including euthanasia solution, in that rendered product. The head of the largest rendering association in the US, and I've got some veterinarians who get mad at me every time I say this, but the head of the Rendering Association said it is almost, in his keynote speech, said it is almost impossible to have a rendered meat product without euthanasia solution in it. The FDA says, it's a small enough amount, it's not going to matter. Don't worry about it. It's kind of a problem for me.
So is kibble mostly plant product or mostly animal product?
It's very heavy in plant products. So if you have an extruded kibble, so that's the ones that are using the rendered meats, the rendered products, that's cooked at high heat, then it's dried at high heat, then it goes through an extruder at high heat. So extrusion is the same process that the Kellogg's brothers invented many years ago in the early 1900s to make cereal, which, that's so good for us too. And the problem is, once it goes through all those processes, and in order to go through that process, it needs a starch to hold it together. It was originally made to make cereal. So they have to add a starch, which is going to be corn, potatoes, peas, things that our pets are not supposed or don't need in their diet. Cats are obligate carnivores. Dogs are sort of facultative carnivores. But when we look at the AAFCO, which is the the Association of Animal Feed Control Officials, their handbook, it's called the OP, the official publication. It says in there, and you have to buy it. You can't just get it. You have to pay for the stupid thing. But it lists in there the minimum requirements for protein, fat, all the vitamins, all the minerals. Under carbohydrates, there's a big fat 0 because dogs and cats have 0 requirement for carbohydrates in their diets. But yet kibble, extruded kibble, is going to be 50 to 60% carbohydrates because that's the only way it's going to stick together. So we're feeding them something that's totally inappropriate.
If you had a dog in the wild and there were animals to hunt or there was some dead carrion to eat, would a plant ever choose to eat a berry, grass, or grains?
So interestingly, they do need a fiber component in their diet. So the fiber can come from animal hair. It can come from, eating all the different parts of the animal, but they do usually eat some of the digestive content, which is going to be digested plant material, if they're eating an herbivore. But that requirement, like cats have like a 2% requirement in their diet and dogs have like a 4% requirement.
How did they measure that?
The requirements?
Yeah, how do they decide that that's a requirement? Well, I call it scientism, petri dish science.
Yeah, well,
we are scientists to prove something based on what we sell. And so ultimately, if you put a dog in the wild, would they hunt plants or would they hunt and eat the animals? We haven't observed that very readily, I imagine, but.
Well, it's really interesting because I have 7 outdoor cats that are raw fed. They're like my little tigers in the world, and they're the healthiest cats I've ever had. They will occasionally chew on grass. I know that like our fox that lives on our property with her babies, every year we have new kits. They're really adorable, but they will eat some berries. They will eat a little bit of plant material, but it is very minor. And so they will eat it, not that they need it. It depends. What is their food availability? Is there, are they not finding enough rodents to eat? And in which case, what's my backup source?
Well, and humans fall into that same sense. And obviously we were animal centric and now we're plant centric because the animals were less available. And now they're domesticated and fenced in. So you having access to fresh killed animals is like 0 unless you can afford to pay it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's our domestication. So I had a dog that had diabetes. I used to give it insulin, Duchess, and ultimately cancers, diabetes, arthritis, all sorts of degenerative disorders. Are those happening more and more today versus when did you start practice as a veterinarian?
1984.
So when you started practice, how have you seen the changes over the years? What type of diseases and?
So tons more endocrine diseases. And I chalk that up to a lot of the endocrine disruptors in the food and in the environment, but plastics, the glyphosate, so tons more. We're seeing a lot more inflammatory disease, arthritis earlier, diabetes is a huge problem. Pancreatitis all the time. Cushing's disease, which is another endocrine disease. Obesity is a huge problem. That's an inflammatory disease. So, I mean, it's just a cascade of, and interestingly, I switched over to holistic medicine the mid to late 1990s. So I was only in practice 10 to 12 years before I saw the light and said, oh, we need to do something different. And so I started seeing a lot of changes in the population of patients that were coming into my hospital, particularly pet parents who had been with me through multiple generations of pets. So I would see them initially with, you know, the obese animal with all kinds of chronic diseases, cancer, inflammatory problems going on. Then when, you know, we educate them on how to feed them, how to do things differently, the next generation of pets that they get, much healthier, living much longer. The third generation of pets that they get, it's like, oh, now we've got this down. We know how to do this. And we don't see all of that in those pets.
What's the book we always talk about, Alia?
Oh, Puttinger's Cats.
and you spoke earlier about cats being obligate carnivores. What do you mean by that? And what are some of the problems that cats experience?
So cats are pretty cool. They are meatosaurus. They absolutely need to eat meat. And I have had clients who have tried to make their cats into vegans and vegetarians, and there are vegetarian cat foods available on the market. But I actually fired those clients if they would not feed their cats meat, because I knew they were going to die. They were going to develop heart failure. They were going to have retinal degeneration, vision problems, muscle problems, super infections. Like they were guaranteed to die a really not fun death. Because
isn't that pet abuse?
Yes. And so, you know, the thing is, the food companies say, oh, we can replace all of those amino acids and vitamins and minerals that they would get from eating meat. We can replace that. We'll just put all these synthetic vitamins and minerals in there. We'll add taurine back into it. We'll add all the amino acids. It doesn't work the same. It is not the same as getting the nutrients that you need from meat. So for me, if somebody wants to feed a vegetarian diet to their pet, then they need to get a hamster or a rabbit.
Well, and so what about the health of the domesticated hamsters and rabbits? What's going on with their health in domesticated world?
Well, I didn't treat that many of them, but again, they're eating ultra processed food as well. And, you know, my kids had guinea pigs and rabbits when they were little. Mine all ate fresh foods. I mean, it's all about fresh food all the time. The processed food is never going to replace what you're going to see in fresh foods. And actually, we have a farm. And so we have dairy cattle. We have chickens that we raise for meat and eggs, and then a bunch of other animals. And so our cow had her calf the day after Christmas. And in North Carolina, we actually do have a winter, and the pastures are not great in the middle of winter. So we supplement with a lot of hay. And our cow was really struggling to keep weight on. And the cream on the milk was very white. Our pastures are in full bloom now, and the cow is in knee-deep pasture, just out there grazing like nuts and avoiding her hay. The cream has turned yellow, and she's putting weight back on because she's eating her natural diet, not hay that's been dried. It's lost a lot of its nutrition. Even though we buy good hay, it's just not the same as the fresh pasture that the cow needs. And unfortunately, and cows are really off subject from what we were talking about, but unfortunately, we bought a Jersey cow because we wanted A2 milk, which is great. I'm now like the biggest raw milk fan in the world. Our cats get it. Our dogs get it. We all drink it. We're all eating raw eggs. It's a little crazy when you get into it. But these cattle are bred to be super producers. And so this one Jersey cow is making 7 gallons of milk a day. I can't give this stuff away fast enough. I am dumping milk and I feel really guilty about it.
I'll stop by.
Oh, please. I'm like, I don't even want to sell it. I just want to give it to somebody to use. It is so amazingly good. And the cream that we're getting off it now with that she's on big pasture is super.
So they must be milked regularly. And this is part of the problem. We've created these mass producing animals that are part of the domestication, but it's not natural for them to be milked. It's natural for them, their babies, to suckle for so long. And then the calves go on to eating grass, and so do they. Their milk production dries up, and then they get pregnant again, deliver another baby under natural circumstances, and they might kind of move a little bit with the seasons, but I imagine they get fattened up for the fall.
Yeah.
And they now are just, it's like human beings. We're continuously fed a domesticating high plant-based diet, which is damaging us.
Yeah. It's the same exact thing. It's just really interesting to look at the animal world and say, okay, we've even screwed up our food producing animals.
So, but obviously there was some pressure that pushed us this way, of human domestication by the dictators to control us in the environment. And that's a simple story.
Well, we have more people. We need, it basically came about because of everybody moving into cities, and now we need to mass produce this. And, that's why we have confinement beef operations and confinement poultry operations, and those are no good either.
So tell us a little bit about your lifestyle and habits, why you're now on a farm and raising these animals, and what is your diet, and how that sort of dovetails with our domesticated animals.
Well, it's really interesting because once I started learning, and part of my teaching is I'm a certified veterinary food therapist. So I actually use food for healing, and it's part of Chinese medicine. And so to me, that was like the most critical part of my healing for my patients. You always have to start with the foundation. You can't build a house without a good foundation, and that foundation is always going to be the diet. And in doing those changes for my patients, it was really interesting what I would start seeing. I love that. I started seeing changes in the people. So this one client had a dog with cancer that they brought to me. And so we changed the diet, got all these supplements, did all these things. And the dog did really well for a long period of time, and then finally succumbed of old age. And so I didn't see the people for about a year, and then they got a new puppy and they came in, and I'm like, you seem really familiar, but I don't recognize you at all. And the woman pulled out a picture from her wallet and she said, well, this is what my husband and I used to look like. And between the two of them, because I taught them how to feed their dog, they decided they would feed themselves correctly. And they, between the two of them, lost over 200 pounds. And so I was kind of like, well, that's a good testament to the power of food. And my parents moved in with us in 2016 because my dad had Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia. My dad spent his entire adult life obese, eating a lot of fast food and a lot of sugar, eating out a lot. He was a salesman, so he was traveling and just, completely wrong diet. And I would have loved to have been able to change his diet and solve a lot of his medical issues. He wasn't having it. So I wasn't able to do it. But it helped me see like how critical it is to not have a diet loaded with sugar, not have a diet loaded with carbs, not have a diet loaded with ultra processed food. And so I was doing all this for my patients, and my husband happens to be sort of an amateur chef. He's actually an architect, but he's an amateur chef. And so with him doing the cooking and with the two of us doing the shopping, it's like, okay, we're switching to everything's going to be all organic. Everything's going to be fresh. And then when we moved to North Carolina, we said, we're going to get a farm. And my first 6 chickens that we bought the chickens because I wanted fresh eggs for the dogs, not for the people, but for the dogs, because I was so into the dog health. And so when we built our farm, I said, well, I want you to design the chicken coop for 40 chickens. He said, what are we going to do with 40 chickens? Well, at our peak, we have 150 now. So but that's because we're raising our own meat chickens. And that my daughter was the one who got into that. She said, I think we can process our own meat chickens. I'm like, who's going to kill these birds? Because I don't know if I can do that. She said, I'll do it. No problem. So we actually have a whole team. Our people here at Naturally Healthy Pets, a couple of the guys that work for us also have a milk share. They come and milk the cows so that they can get fresh milk and make their own cheese and yogurt. And we share our eggs with everybody on our team. And then the people that come and help process chickens get their own chickens to take home. So it's just been, and my daughter was the one who said, okay, after we were doing the chicken, she said, now we need cows. We need to have our own raw milk and make our own cheese. And I'm like, okay. And that's still a learning process. Last night, I had a butter and cheese disaster that I was working on, and none of it worked, and I had to dump it, and I felt really bad. But it's okay because I'm getting 7 gallons a day. I can make more.
You said something about your husband being a chef. What?
He's an amateur chef. He
When
absolutely
you use the term amateur chef, I mean, we label these things. I don't know. I'm a little crazy in all of this, but aren't we all chefs?
No. I mean, a lot of people, the best they can do is microwave a TV dinner. So is that a chef?
But they are all chefs. But they've been held back and domesticated.
Oh, that's true.
And we are everything and anything because what does it take to do it? Get back to who you are. This idea that we're not something or we are something, maybe that's part of our domesticated dialogue, because then people say, well, I'm not trained or certified, so I can't be that. But actually, we're born to be everything and anything.
That is true. And I love this. My wife burns water. There's that. So over the years, I've done a lot of phone consultations for people with animals with chronic disease, and they want to learn how to feed them better. And I had one woman, older woman once, and so I was talking about, what her dog liked. She said, well, he really likes my chicken. Like, if I feed him cooked chicken, he really likes that. I'm like, well, that's great. That's exactly what your dog's supposed to eat. And so I was going through like the things that we wanted to put in her dog's diet. And she said, oh, do I have to cook that? I said, well, you don't have to. You can feed raw. No, I'm afraid to do that. Okay. And she said, well, I don't know how to turn on my stove. I said, you don't know how to turn. Well, I guess I could have my neighbor come over and show me how. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this woman burning down the neighborhood because she has no idea how to even turn on the oven. And I said, well, what is your food that you're eating that you're sharing this chicken with the dogs? Said, oh, TV dinners. Okay, yuck. And I said, well, if I can get you TV dinners for your dog, could you do that? And she said, yes. And there are a couple of companies now that use whole foods, human grade, that all you have to do is, get the food so it's not cold. And she could do that. So, it is very sad that there are, and I've talked to experts in the field who say, literally, if we had to go back to growing and producing our own food, 97% of the world population would die because they have no idea how to grow food, how to make food, no clue, and no ability. If you're in a high-rise apartment in New York City, it's going to be a little tricky.
We have a lot of questions accumulating, but I wanted to ask just straight out, is it raw better for the animals?
Yes.
Or, okay. I just want to have clear. I was trying to feed my granddog uh, raw ground chicken. I would buy ground chicken or turkey and uh, feed them that, or one of these brands that are probably the better among the brands.
Yum.
But they belong to my daughter, and my adult daughter who lives with me, and she's the owner of the dogs, and she didn't want to because they were having a little bit of a loose stool. So now they get high quality kibble.
There's no such
How
thing.
do-
High quality. High
Yeah.
quality. Market.
Marketing.
Yeah, I mean, there are now some, they kind of look like kibble, but they're air dried, and those are high meat products. That's very different than an extruded kibble. Like,
Yeah, I don't
extruded
think
kibble
these
should
ones
just
are the
go
high
away.
meat products, but
Yeah,
But
extruded kibble needs to
is-
go away.
Is cooked meat, what happens to the fat of cooked meat?
So that is actually a problem for our animals. And this is one of the reasons. So we get a lot of pancreatitis for a couple of reasons. One is cooked fats. So don't ever give your dogs bacon grease or the drippings off the chicken. Like, it's so bad. That's going to cause pancreatitis. But high carbohydrate diets also cause pancreatitis because they are taxing the pancreas all the time. That's why we have so many diabetic dogs and dogs with EPI, which is exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. The pancreas just gives up the ghost and says, I can't do this anymore. So is it okay to give my dogs raw chicken quarters? Yes, bones are great if they're raw. You cannot feed cooked bones. They will splinter, shatter, pierce the bowel. Raw bones are amazing, so great for their dental health. Kibble is one of the worst things for dental health, by the way. That would be like your dentist saying, here, eat crackers all day. Don't worry about brushing your teeth. They'll be fine. Yes, they'll be fine, and they'll all fall out. It'd be great. So yes, raw meaty bones are amazing. So that's the kind of stuff my husband makes. That thing right there.
I don't cook it. I eat it.
Oh, you eat it raw.
Well, of course, because remember the same thing for dogs and cats. When you cook the meat, you render the fat, which is not a natural food for anything. That's a carnivore that eats meat. And that's part of our biggest problem. As you said, the cooked bones and meat, you lose the fat, you damage the glycocalyx, the protein structures, and the sugar structures. Remember, there are sugars in all cells of all organisms, and you damage it. Right? Isn't that and so it is this cooked thing and getting us back to raw meat. But the beauty of plants is they like you to eat them raw because it's harmful for us.
Let's take some questions.
Yeah,
Keep going.
Jasper is a white miniature poodle. He was chewing his feet, which turned red, so I took him off chicken feet and it stopped. He still has tear stains. He is on a local farm, raw beef in organs.
Which is great. I mean, raw is the preferred way to feed our pets. Unfortunately, the CDC, the AVMA, which is the American Veterinary Medical Association, and AHA, the American Animal Hospital Association, all have huge statements on their websites saying, don't feed raw to your pets. They will die. You will die. Everybody in your family will have bacterial salmonella, E. coli, blah, blah, blah. They publish articles on it all the time.
Wow.
But interestingly, the only human deaths associated with pet food are salmonellosis due to contaminated kibble, not raw food. They kind of overlooked that little part. But yeah, raw is definitely the way to go for our pets. And for people who want to feed a keto diet to their pets, absolutely needs to be raw. You cannot cook all those fats because keto diet's for our pets is going to be like 70-75% fat. Cook all that, you're going to kill them. But give that to them raw and you can get them into ketosis. And, it's been great for animals with seizures, for animals with cancer, A lot of people have reported excellent results by using those types of diets. It's a little hard to get that high fat content and actually get them into ketosis, but it can be done, and there are recipes available for doing that.
So then they do need fat. They shouldn't be eating lean meat. Cat.
Oh,
I heard they should be eating lean. Cats and
Yes,
dogs.
no, they can. So it's really interesting. Like if you have an animal who's been kibble fed and you want to switch them over to a raw diet, or to particularly if you want to go to a gently cooked diet, if you're going to do gently cooked, we can't have the fat content be really high because you're going to get pancreatitis. So 10 to 15% fat is, about what you can do if you're going to cook. If you're going to do raw, fat can be whatever you want it to be. When I formulate diets, I formulate with a lot more fat than what they're getting in those kibble diets. But the kibble diets, we don't want those to be high fat because it's cooked fat and it's disgusting.
And the same for humans.
Yeah.
Same for humans.
If someone wants to get a hold of you, is this the best place?
Yep, naturallyhealthypets.com. It's also drjudymorgan.com. Goes the same place.
Okay.
Awesome. What kinds of dog food should I get?
What kinds of dog food that should certainly I'm a huge fan of the companies that are doing really high quality raw food. There's a lot of companies that for people who are like, I don't have a place to, because you have to store that in your refrigerator and your freezer if you don't have room for that. There are some air dried foods. There are freeze dried raw foods, which are not as great. I mean, they're good and they're great for travel. They're easy to use, but you need to rehydrate them. And it's really hard to rehydrate a freeze dried or a dehydrated food back to the level that it was before you put it through that process. So the more minimally processed the food is, the better. It totally changes the energetics, the nutrition.
Do you have a list of commercially available
Sure
foods that are okay on your website?
Yeah. There's a list on my website, and companies that I like are All Provide, Evermore, Green Juju, Raised Right, Goodness Gracious. Those are all human grade, really high quality foods. Some of them are gently cooked, some of them are raw, but a lot of those companies have the food in multiple forms. So you might get frozen, you might get gently cooked, you might get refrigerated, you might get freeze dried. So they kind of solve the problem for, whatever kind of pet parent you are, whatever kind of storage you have, if you're traveling, that sort of thing.
But
How about the farmer's dog?
Oh.
I'm not a fan. Farmer's dog is very high in carbohydrates, and as far as I'm concerned, it's overpriced.
Yeah, I've noticed I looked at the ingredients, and it's like everything that's commercially available has a bunch of vegetables.
Lots of carbs in it. So the companies that I just mentioned, their plant material in their foods is going to be a very tiny percentage, versus things like Farmer's Dog, Just Food for Dogs. Those are the TV dinners that you can buy already made. And I give them credit because they are making an inroad into the veterinary market, and it is human grade food instead of, the leftovers and throwaways and contaminated meats. So it's a step up, but it's still way too many carbs for our pets, in my opinion.
Plants and carbs are the same.
Well, yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think we just call them plants.
But it's the problem for me. I don't mind a little plant material, but I don't like these starchy carbs. So I don't want to see potatoes and pasta and peas and lentils and all those starches are just so bad for our pets. So, and if there's plant material in there, I want it to be very minor, particularly for our cats.
Well, what about goitrogens?
So that's really interesting. You definitely could have a problem if you put too much broccoli, too much collards, kale, that sort of stuff in the food. And that's why, if you're going to put it in there, it needs to be at this really small percentage. A lot of times to get the vitamin mineral content that we're told we have to have in there, we end up having to use some herbs, like to get our manganese level. We use turmeric a lot.
What about organ meats?
We use a lot of organ meats, and I love using organ meats in the food. A lot of the trace minerals, like to get zinc, okay, you can feed oysters. A lot of people won't do that. But you can feed hare. Hare is full of all those trace minerals. Most people don't. My daughter, when the first time we processed chickens, we had all these feathers. And she had this great idea that she was going to take the feathers home, wash them in her washer, dry them in her dryer. She put them in pillowcases. And then she was going to put them on Facebook Marketplace because, people use them for making wreaths and decorating and whatever. Nobody wanted her feathers. And she had like feathers all over her house. So she said, how do I get rid of these feathers? And she fed them to her dogs and cats. She just added a handful of feathers into every meal along with all their raw food. And interestingly, she said, I thought I would be picking up poop full of feathers in the backyard. Nope, they digested it all. No feathers came out the other end.
Well, it's all organic material. It's mostly glycocalyx. It's sugar. And it's all dissolvable and digestible, which is crazy. But I think the confusion is we use these words protein, carbs, but no other organism eats protein or carbs or fat. They eat cells of animals and the whole animal. And ultimately, all the minerals and vitamins and building blocks are in the animals, and there are no poisons like there are in plants. So this is where the goitrogens, which damage every organ system of our body, which I call them tumorgens, and we're missing the simplicity of keep the plants minimal, cook them well, process them to ferment them or soak them, whatever you're doing, but add the raw fatty meat, organ meats, which is the healthiest thing to eat. And that's pretty much the story here for our domesticated cats and dogs.
Yeah. I mean, the organ meat, and so when you're reading a bag of Kibble, it'll have byproducts, and the byproducts are the organ meats and the parts that people don't want to eat. When you're looking at a high quality raw food, like the companies that I mentioned, it'll say on there beef liver, beef heart, beef kidney. Like they'll list what organs are in there, and these are coming from healthy animals, well sourced. And that's a huge difference. Like I would much rather know what organs are being used in there than to just see something that says byproducts, which could mean any kind of trash.
Next question, Dr. Nelson.
Alia?
Okie dokie. Do animals eat grass for parasites?
That's a really interesting question. Here's the thing. If you have an animal with a really good immune system, so they haven't been over-vaccinated, they haven't had a bunch of chemicals. So I'll use my 7 barn cats who were born on the farm. Their 2 mamas showed up at the same time, and we got a bunch of cats. These are 5-year-old, very minimally vaccinated. They've had 1 rabies, 1 distemper when they were young. They're raw fed. And you would think, being outside, because they eat mice and bunnies and whatever, that they might be loaded with parasites. Stool samples on these cats are always negative.
Wow.
They go down in the woods, but they don't bring home ticks. If between 7 cats, if I pull off 2 ticks a year, that would be a lot. I have 1 who tends to attract fleas. She's the oldest one. The rest of them, not an issue. And the thing is, they're healthy and their immune system works, so parasites don't like them.
And they don't last long if they get into them. And that's, I mean, microbes, bacteria, and viruses are all parasites.
Right.
And then we name all these things, and it is really interesting. What is the best meat can we feed to our dogs? Chicken, pork, or beef?
Any of the above. So we really should be rotating. My dogs, I mean, my gosh, there's probably 10 different proteins in my freezer for them. So rabbit, chicken, pork,
You mean meat?
beef,
You mean meat?
duck, turkey. Yeah.
Meat.
Sorry. Different
Yeah,
meats in my freezer.
When we use the word protein, we're missing the truth of what we eat. I'm sorry. That's just my neuroticism. We eat plants or animals. We don't eat protein, carbohydrates, although you can eat fat, which contains proteins, amino acids, sugars, and fats. So sorry about that.
That's okay. But anyway, my cats and my dogs, it's a rotation. So there's fish sometimes, and it can be different fish. It can be sardines, it can be salmon, it can be cod. It's really, if we have an animal with a healthy gut and which unfortunately most animals do not have a healthy gut and a healthy immune system because of all the things that we throw at them. And a lot of them live in highly stressed environments. So for those with indoor cats, I have 2. Indoor cats, studies show that over 80% of them are highly stressed. And we did an interesting experiment. We looked at the gut microbiomes of our outdoor cats and our indoor cats because they're all fed exactly the same. Their difference is where they live. And the microbiomes of the outdoor cats were phenomenal. Good diversity, no antibiotic resistant bacteria, everything looked great. Our indoor cats fed exactly the same. They're a little bit older, but their microbiomes, they were okay. And for a lot of cats, I would say this was an amazing microbiome, but it was very different from my outdoor cats who live a real cat life. The indoor cats had some antibiotic resistant bacteria in their microbiome, and they didn't have the diversity that the outdoor cats did. And it's just because they are not living the normal cat life where they hunt and go after prey and climb and eat a lot of diversity. So there's a huge difference. So the problem is we don't have animals with good gut health. And so that is why we get allergies and why we get inflammatory bowel symptoms and we get food intolerances. People call them allergies, but they're really an intolerance. And so the goal is to have a healthy gut and be able to rotate all kinds of different animal meat in their diet.
Nice.
So
Okay.
what is the one superfood that cats and dogs should have on their bowl?
Probably eggs.
Oh, like humans.
Yeah.
Like one a day for a mid-sized dog?
Whatever you want. Whatever you
Okay.
want. I mean, my cats, if I leave a carton of eggs sitting in the barn, they'll break it open and a dozen eggs will be gone in a heartbeat.
And do you have to cook them? Because I give my dog raw egg.
Yeah, no, it's super for them. So yesterday I had so much milk in my fridge, I was going a little crazy. So for breakfast, my dogs had a mixture of raw milk, raw eggs, and a little bit of chicken thrown in there just to give it a little texture.
But ultimately, if we think evolutionarily speaking, no other organism had milk except as an infant from its mother if they were a mammal. But eggs could be part of their diet. I know polar bears, it's ring seals and eggs. And if you look at them in their hunt for things, but milk, it's one of those weird things that we've enjoyed and we love it. I love it. I don't drink milk. I cream, butter, and cheeses, and that's it. But
we have 20 questions, or we can go
just
a little
get
long.
the questions, Alia.
All
Get
right,
the
all right, all right.
questions. Don't
Can you buy a dog or cat or any pet that has not had any shots? It does not have to be purebred. And thank you so much for what you were doing.
It's really hard, but there are some natural rearing breeders out there. And there's actually a website for that. So put in your search engine, natural rearing breeders. There is a group where they do. I have a friend who works for a pet food company. He's a formulator, and he wanted to get an unvaccinated, like multi-generation unvaccinated puppy.
Oh,
And
wow.
he did manage to find one, which kind of shocked me, but it was 3 generations of unvaccinated, unmedicated. And the funny thing is his dog came with allergies, but he has managed to solve them. So,
so would you recommend no vaccines at all, or is there a few that you would still recommend?
So I have, and I'm not supposed to say this out loud, but I have my first no vaccine dog. Like I said, my outdoor cats have had one. I think, this is the older I get and the more I look at things and the more skeptical I get of pharmaceutical companies, the more I lean toward, why are we vaccinating? However, when I was in vet school in 1983 and 1984, that was when parvovirus in dogs first reared its ugly head. And we had ICU wards filled with dogs dying with parvovirus.
Oh, wow.
Then they developed the parvovirus vaccine, and problem pretty much was solved. Do we over-vaccinate? You betcha. And so when I opened my first clinic, it was in an area where the animals had not, it was a poor area and the animals had not gotten much veterinary care. We saw a ton of parvovirus. And part of that is because there are certain breeds that are more prone to parvovirus. Pit bulls, Rottweilers, Dobermans are actually more prone to parvovirus. And we saw a ton of it. And, nobody was spayed or neutered, which I'm against that too. But anyway, litters of puppies coming in right and left with parvovirus. And so, as we were in the community and getting the animals healthier, then we stopped seeing it. So, I don't know if I'm totally against vaccines. And unfortunately, in this country, the rabies vaccine is one of those mandatory things where they knock on your door and give you fines and, get a little crazy. So we're kind of backed in a corner a little bit. What I recommend to people is groom your own pets. Have somebody come stay at your house when you travel so that you don't have to take them to boarding and grooming and daycare, because those require so many vaccines that it's crazy. And I won't do that to my animals.
Isn't it true that these animals have been bred that is not natural to nature, which obviously affects their genetic predisposition to the diseases, whether it's a bacteria, virus, or other plant particles, chemicals, or antigens? And so, we live in a world of like, we're all living in an airplane, a jet, right? We're all living in a commercial jet, all packed in. So we're doing things where we know the explorers of the world brought around the bacteria and viral diseases, which wiped out civilizations. And so we're in an unnatural environment anyway, right? So we're giving all these drugs and vaccines, which you've said we overdid it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's part of the problem. We've just trashed their immune systems. We've trashed their microbiomes. And, so nothing works the way it's supposed to, unfortunately.
Okay, let's see. Next question.
Right down the list, Talia. Top
one. Dr. Judy, do you have a book or website? Oh, yes, we already showed that.
I'm working on book number 10. And the books are all on drjudymorgan.com or naturallyhealthypets.com, whichever. They're also on Amazon.
Our King Charles, our Cavalier King Charles, is a carnivore princess, eats raw ground beef that we grind at home for ourselves, but still having itchy, very itchy, licking her paws constantly. Do you know what we can do for her?
Well, it's a Cavalier that happens to be my breed. I've had probably 100. We do a lot of rescue work and we're crazy. So if she's still very itchy, it could be one of two things. One, her microbiome, you might want to test that and see what it looks like, because almost always it's a microbiome issue and we're not solving that. The second thing being a Cavalier King Charles, 90% of them have some degree of SM and CM, which are neurologic diseases that cause phantom licking and scratching. So that would be something to rule out. Called PEA, which is palmitoyl ethanolamide. Works really well to help modulate a lot of those things that you're looking at. So you might want to look at adding that in. But you also could try a different protein and see how she does. And make sure, if you're feeding raw ground beef, are you also feeding organs? Like, are we getting all of the minerals? So muscle meat doesn't have all of the vitamins and minerals that she needs.
Right.
And so we can get itching from a zinc deficiency, which is pretty common. It could be a vitamin D deficiency. So hopefully that diet is more than just raw ground beef.
Add more fat, raw fat, maybe. Yeah.
Fats can help too. And, is that raw ground beef coming from confinement raised animals or grass fed? I have a feeling in this group it's probably a grass fed, but the omega 6:3 ratio is very different for confinement raised beef versus grass fed beef.
Roxanne is asking, is air dried any better than extruded kibble for dogs? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Buncombe County, North Carolina Farmers Market does not allow sale of raw milk. How can we change that?
Well, I'm in North Carolina, and North Carolina almost banned the sale of raw milk for pets. We got that.
Wow.
We got that taken out. So if people wanted to sell that raw milk at the farmers market, it just has to be labeled for pet use. And then the people that buy it, if they want to drink the raw milk, that's up to them. But it is legal to sell it for pet use. So before we got our cow, we used to go to a local place that sold raw milk, and it just has a big label on it that says for pet use only.
Is the farmer still responsible for the contamination of raw milk?
Probably, but they're selling it for pet use. So if you get sick from it because you drank it, they don't have any responsibility. It's like, I said you shouldn't drink it, that you should feed it to your pet. And our dogs and cats have a much more acidic pH in their stomach than we do. So, I mean, they can eat dead things that are rotten by the side of the road and do fine. So.
I wonder, do you think our pH is decreased because of how we eat? Because I think we used to eat rotten food ancestrally.
Maybe, but it's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
No, and then you get people who, so many people live on stomach acid reducers, and it's like, actually you need to add more acid, but that's a different conversation.
Hey, Ollie, hit the prize, and we have less than 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah. Yep.
Dr. Judy Morgan, it's been really fantastic having you on today. Really insightful, and we're all going to be visiting and buying your books, visiting your website, and our pets. We often treat our pets better than we treat our human brothers and sisters. But I think it sounds like we can learn a lot from what you're doing on how to treat our domesticated, beautiful, our best friends, but also our human best friends too at the same time.
Yep.
Awesome.
I put in the chat her website, and you can go and visit if you had more questions. Subscribe to her newsletters, and their
raw fat better than cooked fat all day long.
All day long.
All day long. All right, Ollie. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Dr.